Sometimes suffering is just suffering for the sake of suffering, and it doesn't make us better humans, and it doesn't build our skill set.
When things feel hard, what we understand as doctors is I'm doing something good. I'm growing here. Every single shift I did, I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I finding this hard?
Being disruptive in the most beautiful ways, not having to accept what society gives you.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Beck.
And I am Christine Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalise the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong?
Hello, Dr. Humans. Welcome back to another episode of the Poddy. And today we've got a wee spicy one for you. We just wanted to drop in with a very, I'm sure, welcome reminder that not everything has to be hard, and hard things don't always serve a purpose. So as doctors, we're always feeling like, hard work is good, and we'll be on rotations that are really hard, and we sort of convince ourselves that somehow that is good for us. It's a good experience and we're learning a lot and it's shaping us into our future selves. And sometimes that is true, but there are other situations where it's just not true. And sometimes suffering is just suffering for the sake of suffering, and it doesn't make us better humans, and it doesn't build our skill set. And that's what we're talking about today. So, Beck, tell us about a completely unnecessary suffering that has been happening to you.
That was just so well said. And this is actually a part of our clinician conditioning. One of the things that I commonly recognize is exactly what you said in doctors, which is we have this discomfort, unease with feeling ease, with feeling good. And we're way more comfortable when things feel hard. When things feel hard, what we understand as doctors is great. I'm doing something hard and therefore I am working towards something. I'm doing something good. I'm growing here. Something's happening when I'm feeling like I'm working hard. Like it's a funny little paradoxical association. Hard is great, but you're not, right? Like my high achievers, you know that. You crave and you feel like comfortable in the hard. And I recently just been snapped back into a painful reality that took me weeks or months, probably months, to actually come back to reality with, like an embarrassingly long time to be like, wait a second, that's dumb. But I was working under that clinician conditioning that this hard that I'm going through, this struggle, this like my whole situation feeling really hard, like that's okay, that's good, because at least like I'm going to grow out of this. I'm going to transform out of this. I'm going to be better at the end of it. No pain, no gain, right? And I've just snapped back into the reality of like, that is not true. This is just hard. Full stop, end of story, nothing to give me at all. And what I'm talking about, sleep deprivation in this case. New baby, not sleeping, new baby, 10 months old, 10 months of not sleeping. I'm not okay, but I'm okay. I've got supports. 10 months of not sleeping and like it's hard. And I kept searching for the thing that I needed to become better at, the efficiency that I needed to build to be able to like get the things done, the way I needed to better organize myself, the way I needed to better motivate myself, the way I like the little, almost like a biohack or something, like, oh, maybe I'm just not eating enough vegetables. Maybe I am lacking vitamins. Maybe I just need to exercise. Like I was trying to come up with all these different things that I could do, lessons I had to learn to be able to transform into becoming the person who could still function at a high level with significant chronic sleep fragmentation, deprivation. And yeah, it was an embarrassingly long time before I was like, oh, there's nothing here for me. There's nothing for me to learn. There is no efficiency that I could adapt. There's nothing for me to grow into. Beck, you just need to sleep. And this might not feel relevant to you immediately if you are somebody who doesn't have a newborn or hasn't had a newborn that doesn't sleep. But what I see here is so much resonance from training and being in the hospital and just in medicine in general. But I'm thinking about being a med reg and doing those admission shifts. And every single shift I did, I was like, whew, like I dreaded the shift coming. I was bracing myself. I was like working myself up. And then I was like, let's go. This time I'm going to admit 10 patients and I'm going to solve all the problems and write fantastic notes and sort all the things. And then if I do this for long enough, if I just keep doing this for this term, these multiple terms, I'd finish a term and I'd be like, I'm still not very good at that. Like I obviously still I have a lot to transform in. I have a lot to grow in. But recognizing only actually recently when one of our Dear Darling members said as advice, as like when we were talking about this situation, she said, oh no, like those shifts, like you're never supposed to actually feel like you're thriving. You're never supposed to like suddenly learn so much and know everything because you've done so many admissions from all those shifts. Like the point of those shifts, that's a service job. You are there to work and work and work, and there's not much space in there for learning, and there's no amount of efficiency or sort of optimization improvement in those kinds of shifts that are meant to make your learning absolutely flourish and meant to make you come out of those terms being like, I can nail this shift like every single time. And it's obviously, I'm not saying there's not anything to gain. There's so much to learn from those shifts. But the difference is I was believing and my other member was believing, and what this other member taught us in that moment was actually some of the things we do in life are hard just because they're work, they're grunt work. They're like a lot of the work we do in the hospital is service work, of course, because the hospital is not all about learning and developing doctors. The hospital is also about providing a service as efficiently as possible. And that doesn't always have room for learning and growth. And it just blew my mind. I'd never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and I think it's such an important message to share because there's so many layers to it. And I feel so grateful just hearing someone else say this, because I know that when I was in my training doing a lot of transplants through the night and then still working the whole day, there was a lot of hours put in, a lot of time put in, and a lot of sleep deprivation as part of that experience. And I just felt very gaslit by everyone around me, wondering, like, why am I finding this hard? And even if I said it was hard, like if I actually outwardly expressed that, it would be met by some kind of really? Or like, I'm like, no, sleep deprivation is like torture chamber. Like, I don't like sleep deprivation. And I was made to feel as if there was something very wrong with me. And I just think that's really awful. And so it's lovely to tell the truth about this so that if you are experiencing this, you're working a hard roster and you're just thinking, why am I finding this so unpleasant and why am I feeling this struggle? It's not necessarily about you. Even if other people try to tell you that it's something that, like, please hear us, hear the truth, let it land, that this is probably not a you problem. And whilst we can always learn from things, there's nothing, like Beck's saying, to learn from sleep deprivation or too much work for one human and trying to do two people's jobs. There's not a lot to learn in there. You maybe get to learn how strong you are in the face of hard things, and you learn to trust yourself that way. But I think that there's not a lot, like you say, to learn in other regards. But I think it is important because the culture around us, what astounded me was you're saying, I don't know how it took me so long. It's taken me 10 months to just... But the reason it took you so long is because other people, even if it's not medicine, about society not acknowledging or celebrating the sleep deprivation of new mums, like it's
and
not
actually,
celebrated.
You just made me think, one of the thoughts is this shouldn't be hard. And so I was trying to solve it by fixing myself, because I was like, this shouldn't be hard. Society, and it's just like you're saying in medicine, people suggest that it shouldn't be hard. And because you're finding it hard, you're like, oh, I must be the problem. So what do I need to change? What do I need to fix, evolve into so it's not hard? That's so interesting now that you point that out.
Yeah, and I think it is a very toxic intrinsic problem. I know I've personally experienced it, but I know that a lot of people listening will relate. And I think what's really important as well, apart from when you're suffering through a difficult rotation, sleep deprivation, is also to remember when you are on a different roster, you are maybe in positions of leadership like myself, is to really remember how it felt. to be struggling and for people to make you the problem. Like, I just feel like that and a perpetuality to it sometimes, you know, when you were treated a certain way as a registrar and you kind of keep passing it down, or when I was a registrar, that was completely normal, or I had it much worse, or like all those things. They're not helping. Stop saying stuff like that.
Exactly. And it so often gets packaged up as resilience building, which grinds my gears because, you know, and I've got this really, like a really tangible example is, you know, I know when there's a part of me that doesn't want to go and exercise, you know, exercise being the growth thing. When I don't want to exercise because, you know, I'm just like, meh, not motivated, don't want to, versus when I don't want to exercise because I know my body's it actually won't be good for my body right now. Like, you know, you're feeling tired. Sometimes the tiredness is just like, I'm not motivated. But if I go and exercise, I will feel better. I'll be uplifted. I will grow. And that exercise will transform your body in a positive way. But if you go and exercise when you're depleted, when your body's not in that state, when your body is below that threshold, the hard thing, doing the hard thing, exerting yourself, testing yourself, not only does it not grow you, does not offer that transformation in that moment that is the purpose of doing it, but it actually hurts you. It actually breaks you down. Like that is when you push your body, when it's not strong, when it's not replete, when it's not when it doesn't have the ingredients and the conditions to grow, that's when you hurt yourself. That's when you hurt your body. And that is what's so sad about this situation where we misinterpret, you know, we assume that there's growth in every single hard thing and we try and do the best thing. We try and do the right thing. We take two people's jobs and we do them because medicine says that's just what you do and that's normal. And we push ourselves for the greater good, thinking that we're doing the good thing, thinking that we're doing the right thing. And then we only end up taking from ourselves and actually even hurting ourselves sometimes. It's so interesting that, you know, it's always such a paradox to me that, you know, we work in healthcare. It's all about health and by extension, you know, wellness, right? We're all about health. And even like this doesn't disappear in consultant life either. I've worked with people who, you know, just take the on-call systems that you do as a consultant across all the different specialties. They're widely varied. And so many of these are hard in a way that it's just hard. It's hard because you're serving, because you're doing a lot of work, because you're exerting yourself. But these on-calls aren't giving back to the consultants that I'm working with. They're purely a service that they're doing, you know? So it's a reality of being a doctor. It is a reality. And therefore, we need to actually be able to discern the hard that grows us versus the hard that costs us, the hard that takes from us. Because the flip side is we get to make decisions that determine whether we protect ourselves in those situations or whether we hurt ourselves by pushing through that hard.
I think that is so beautiful. The hard that grows us and the hard that takes away from us. Oh, I love that. It's such a mic drop. Oh, so good. I feel like I've just like really got a new way of thinking about hard things in my life. And also, I think another thing that you have been talking a lot about behind the scenes as well is recognition of yourself. So when you are in a season of hard and it's not the kind of hard that's growing you, I think, but even if it is growing you, I think another thing that is important is to, one, don't be gaslit by anyone else. Just you tune into your truth. If it's hard, it's probably hard, and that matters that you're finding it hard. So validating yourself and not seeking that validation, which is often not given back, but also kind of understanding like, God, I'm showing up to this hard thing and I'm doing the hard thing, and just trying to find that kind of recognition for yourself. Because otherwise, I mean, it's really hard. Obviously, it would be great to advocate and change systems and things. But the truth is, when you're in a rotation like that, or you're in a season like that, you might be able to change things for people down the line, but you're seldom going to make a massive impact when you're in the middle of one of those hards. You know, it's usually like retrospectively, you'll go back. So getting yourself through the hard, and also, though, not accepting the hard in the long term. Like if you can see the hard end, which obviously is harder in your situation, Beck, in terms of like a baby in a sleep deprivation, but in the hospital setting, like just making sure that you're not onboarding thoughts and beliefs from other people that don't serve you, but also that you're not putting up with it in the very long term as well. You're very valuable, and you should you can leverage that in the situation for sure.
That's such a great practice. And I'm even just thinking right now that's something that might be really useful for people. And then, like, whether you're in training or whether you're a consultant who's just like not vibing with the on-call that everybody else is accepted in the hospital and the place that you want to live and with the work that you want to do, it's like just to be like, that may be true for them. Like, that's their thoughts about this. To them, this is acceptable. To them, it is acceptable to, give up this chunk of their life, to be sleep deprived, to be interrupted, to be on the hook for the phone calls and the stress and the risk. For them, that might be completely acceptable for them. And it's okay for you to just feel differently about it. It doesn't mean you have to change what you're doing. But as you're saying, Christine, like, there's a lot of pain in just that confusion of, oh, everybody else seems to find it easy, therefore there must be something wrong with me. And that can lead to like, so how do I need to change myself? How do I need to transform through this hard? It can just be like, that's you. They're your thoughts that come from your values, that come from how you want to live your life. And these are my thoughts about the situation, and just standing in them. The pivotal point for me that brought me out of the judgment or confusion that I had about the sleep deprivation was I sat down with a little notebook and I just asked myself the prompt from the place of recognition, Christine, what is hard here? And I was thinking I would write 3 things, like slept this many hours. And I ended up writing like the whole little, it's like a tiny little book. It's a tiny little book. But I wrote like a whole tiny little page of like multiple, like at least a dozen things that were hard. The point of it wasn't for me to feel like a victim. The point of it wasn't for me to complain, but I was able to see, oh, like there are things that are genuinely hard here. These are things that are reasonable. I don't find unreasonable for me to be finding hard. And it lifted that confusion that I had before I sat and looked at that in such a black and white way of, why am I struggling with this? What's wrong with me? Why am I finding this hard? So that process of recognition, recognizing what is hard in your life, is such a beautiful nuance. People often don't do it because I think they're thinking they're being the victim or complaining. But when you can hold yourself in reverence, when you have this baseline of recognizing, no, I'm good. I do hard things and I have values that matter to me and that I stand by. You can suddenly look at the things that you're struggling with without it turning into a self-judgment about yourself. So thank you so much for prompting that concept of recognition, because it's so easy for us as doctors, based on, what we're talking about at the start with our clinician conditioning. It's so easy for us as doctors to feel shame and feel like something's wrong with us because we're not enjoying the hard, because we're struggling with the hard or seeing ourselves struggle. And then the struggle, one of the biggest struggles with me, it wasn't the sleep deprivation itself, but it was the, like, you really should be handling this better. Like, why are you finding this so hard? That was the most painful thing.
So this self-judgment on top, I think that's what I'm getting from that is, like, there's the hard and then there's what you're judging about the hard, and that is an extra layer that doesn't need to be there. You can set yourself free from that layer is what I heard there.
Exactly. It's just okay. Like, I don't care if, since medicine has been a thing, that people have been doing 2 people's jobs, that people have been doing 2 weeks straight of on call, that people have that this is always how it's been done in your department and that people have managed more before. I don't care. It does not take away from what you're doing right now, what you're experiencing being hard. It's irrelevant. It is irrelevant. Stop comparing yourself to other people, to history. These things don't define normal. They don't define, most importantly, they don't define the standard within which you want to live your life. And that's the most important thing. A funny thought that kept kind of occurring to me that was definitely my clinician conditioning was I kept telling myself, like, oh, but Beck, like, you're not dying. Like, I had that thought of, like, you're not in the ICU, so you can still come and work in the hospital. That's something that my partner overheard in training. Unless you're in the ICU, unless you're in an ICU bed, I want to see you in the hospital in working capacity. Like, it's insane. And I know it sounds insane, but it is truly the culture from which we are hopefully evolving out of, and therefore a culture that like so many of the people that not only are our colleagues, but also like our trusted seniors that we admire so much are immersed in. And it's just something that's been normalized to them. And it's just even more of a reason to make sure you are having your own thoughts and you're clear about what your standard is. You can still respect those people and have them the utmost respect and reverence for those people, what they've done, who they are, what they offer, how they hold themselves today, and you can still disagree with them.
Yeah, I love that. It's like a being disruptive in the most beautiful ways. Not having to accept what society gives you. It's just delightful. Yeah, for the higher good. For you and for everybody that comes after you. I love that so much. So thank you so much for that, Beck. I think that was such a much needed reminder for everyone who's going through anything hard or is set to go through something hard. Sending so much love to all of you Dr. Humans who I just know are always encountering these ups and downs and hard things. Like, you got this, and don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking that your experience is somehow you're the problem, because you're not. Just hear that, let it land. We love you so much, and we can't wait to see you in another episode really soon. Bye.
We get so many heartfelt thank yous from our fellow doctors for having these vulnerable conversations on this public podcast. If you want to say thank you too, we would be most appreciative if you left our podcast a review. Reviews actually mean everything to us because they're what make the platform share this podcast with all the other Dr. Humans. And our mission is to make as many Dr. Humans as we can reach feel more human. Just go to the podcast app, click on the show, and find the option to review. The other way you can help us is just by sharing the podcast with someone in your life who you know will say, thank you for saying that, or tagging us on social media. And if you're in healthcare looking for speakers for your next event, or professionals who actually get it to facilitate the vulnerable conversations our teams of doctors need, request us through podcastfordoctors@gmail.com.